Hey guys, it's Targan coming at you with another game of Minecraft. Really, it's just wheat. And we're just gonna do the normal thing. We're gonna look at wheat, we're gonna plant some, we're gonna talk some, we're just gonna hang out, do our thing. From far above you can't necessarily tell that it's wheat, but it's all wheat, everything. So we're just gonna zoom right on over here and get to planting wheat again. Of course, all the wheat is organic, hand-grown wheat. The flying is, a little more suspect. Luke, you say you feel like it's been a while since last week's stream. Indeed. Yes. Well, I got more... No, it's been at least a week. It's been a bit. It's when I started playing Hollow Knight with my 30 to 45 minute blocks of time there, as I started getting closer to the end, which of course always turned into an hour and a half. What even is time? Also, good evening. But any other thing I could have done with gaming felt too thoughtful. Indeed. I don't know, I might have really messed up at work today. I sort of exploded and then kind of walked out-ish. I'm just gonna do the Seinfeld thing and go in tomorrow like nothing happened. Not ideal behavior. Played some modded Three Kingdoms, 190 expanded, bunch of land in Northwest Korea. Awesome. I'll change much game mechanics, make the game harder. It's just sort of like map expansion plus mechanic mod. I like that, There's I don't know if you've ever played any of the modded Warhammer stuff. I haven't done a ton of it, but I played some SFO in 2, and then a couple custom factions, and then some Mixu's Unlocker for minor factions with bigger world and stuff. It's all very cool. And I love when a game, provides the tools for people to see their own vision set onto it. So I know from the Total War subreddit that the perception was that Three Kingdoms was sort of for lack of a better word, abandoned too early in the cycle of development. People felt that it deserved like a couple more things. And then of course there I was reading the posts and not having bought it yet, so you know, part of the problem. You're interested in SFO in the old world, but yeah, I see. Yeah, I actually did it for the first time right before the Taurox expansion came out in Warhammer 2, because I really like Beastmen, but the mechanics before the rework, they just weren't good, right? They weren't. And now they might be too good and too easy, but back in the day they just weren't. And like I desperately wanted, you know, more of the units to be competitive and like, you know, that kind of thing. And so the SFO Beastmen there, which I played basically for like a month, and then they updated the faction, and I just like never got it again. And then I played like this minor sort of like Celtic faction one, but I quite agree. Like that's why I basically stopped doing it. I was like, you know, there's still a lot of vanilla stuff I haven't even done. Say the good thing about a dead game is it lets modders not worry about new updates. Oh, for sure. A certain sort of silver/jade lining there. Just been a good example. Sort of like a DLC we never got, but it's like a lot harder. Yep. Yeah. Whenever I was playing SFO, I definitely got the feeling. I was like, you know, because as you know from watching me, I'm not like good at Warhammer, but I do, or Total Warhammer, but I do know it, right? And there were a lot of things where I was like, oh, if you didn't know like what you had to worry about, because it changes so many stats and whatnot, but like, you know, if you can look at a unit card and figure out what things are going to be happening to you, that's, you know, you can only really do that with experience. And some of the SFO stuff was absolutely bonkers. And then some of it was how I learned that base game mechanics have been updated for some factions that I hadn't played since 1. I was like, oh, this Blood Kiss thing is cool for the vampires. I can't, like, that's super cool. They figured all that out. And one of my buddies was like, yeah, you know, that's just the whole thing now. I'm like, oh, right. But yeah, no, cause I still gotta play my Shu campaign, and then of course there's the Wu campaign. Get my 5 tigers together. Exactly, you know, anything to prevent giving the developer credit for making a good thing. It's time to get more seeds. I wonder where we'll do it. We're just gonna go over here to the central field. The premier field, the field from which all other fields originally sprung. We're just gonna mine some wheat here. This is a good spot for it. I Ever played Kerbal Space Program? No, I thought about it, and then one thing led to another, and I never did. But I remember reading about it and thinking, wow, that's really cool, because it, like, you basically had to actually, like, learn rocketry in order to do it properly, I think, was what I was seeing. One of my friends got really into it, but, no, I don't even think I ever bought it. It's possible that I own it through, like, a Humble Bundle or something, but... yeah, literally rocket science, right? He's like, yeah, you gotta, you know, calculate the orbital mechanics and blah, 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 blah. I'm like, but you said you were playing a game. It's like, yeah. More rockets and more fuel. Yes, smart. Staple more rockets to the outside of the rockets and then they will provide thrust. Or something. I'm not a scientist. I just play one on TV. The science of wheat. First, you have to add more rockets. Brilliant. You know, that's the sort of can-do spirit you need in order to go to the moon or anywhere else. I'll have to mend up the hoe pretty soon. Run over to the field of 1,000 cows. No one knows why I got the name. One of these days I might just irrigate this little block. But I would have to have, you know, like a bucket. You know, we'll just leave it there. A monument to my bad planning. Back to Three Kingdoms. Who has probably is the best campaign for a beginner. Just them. Yeah, maybe we'll do that one next. Because the thing with them is, like, without knowing any of the specific faction mechanics, just placement on the map dictates that if you are, like, far away from Cao Cao and Yuan Shao, then you should at least have, like, an okay time for a little while. Because without knowing anything about what Liu Bei's AI behaves like, I just imagine it's sort of like a kind of chill, alright, good dude as long as you don't do stuff that he hates specifically. And I bet I could avoid that for a little while. Oh right, yeah, because with the order of the war... Man, I got so lucky that Yuan Shao didn't execute Zhao Yun or anything whenever he popped that army, or Wei Yan. Like, I would have hated to lose them. They're so good at fighting. Makes for the reliable vassals. Well, you know, that actually does totally track, right? Because, at least in his common cultural characterizations, what I would consider as common ones, all the ones I've seen, you know, like, he's sort of like the consummate good guy warlord, you know, like... Whenever one of his forces has to do something that's bad, they give that event to someone who isn't him, even, you know, like he's insulated. Like, I always felt like, from every faction's point of view, that you were supposed to, like, kind of like him. Even though, you know, he might have ended up your enemy, you know, like... It was clear, like, when you're playing Wei, you totally get why everybody would not like Wei. But, like, maybe it's just my, like, pro-Liu Bei bias, but, like, I just always feel like it makes sense for everybody to like him, you know? Even if they, like, you know, end up having to fight against him on the battlefield, but... He just had good PR. You know, very good PR. It lasted 1,800 years. I guess it's all, you know, it's all based on the original scheme, you know, like how much of this is, you know, your sincere concern for your nephew. Because if we accept, you know, that sort of like foundational premise, then suddenly, you know, like a lot of the scheming is literally not exactly scheming, but I mean, it is dubious, isn't it? That box needs to be bigger. You know, I guess in a lot of ways, you know, you develop your feelings about characters, historical characters or otherwise, you know, based on your own predilections. And like, what I like about him is that he seemed like to embody, like, you know, good, trustworthy sort of values. And even that's like a very flawed take, I know, but like it just seemed like he was a guy that if he told you he would do something, you could believe it. And most of the time that sort of worked out. But it's, you know, without putting too fine a point on it, there are no good warlords. There just aren't. If you think you have found a good warlord, you just haven't found out what they're doing. But I mean, I guess like Wu are like some totally alright dudes too in the grand like general assumption scheme of things. It's really just Wei that gets a bad rep, and from them really just for their original leader and Yuan Shao. But I mean, that one sort of, you know, they kind of he earned that one, right? Is there anybody out there that's like, Yuan Shao was right actually? I mean, it's a big world. There's got to be someone that likes him the most. A real contrarian. We're just gonna get. Alright, we don't have room for all of the supplies. Well, this is embarrassing. That's not the right word. Bad. We'll have to put some seeds in here. We shouldn't get that many more. We don't want to waste the raw beef, you know, or the leather. After all, what if we actually build the Great Library someday? Since Jones is also kind of terrible. Yeah. It's like... I keep being super imprecise. It's like, when I say all warlords are terrible, it's like, I feel like I should elaborate more. It's like, I would expect that even the super chill dudes of history that lead armies are always in their trail bringing the attendant harms of, you know, militarized conflict and depravity and so on. It's like how I talk about how I like Genghis Khan, you know, all the time. Like Temujin, like I like him. I think he's super interesting and cool, but like, I mean, like I do understand that he's awful. Like I do know that, but whenever I think about him, I just don't, you know. I'm like, what a chill and cool guy, you know. He stopped people from kidnapping women, you know. That's nice. I mean, he didn't, but in a certain context, he did. Oh, that is a bad one, huh? The old forged documents one. That's sort of always the choice that a warlord forces people around him to make, right? Do this thing that's unwise because I am currently in the act of, making you feel afraid of me personally. And now it's time to plant more wheat. Well, no sort of life legitimacy, though. I remember that being what struck me most as a kid, learning about the Warring States period and stuff. I'm like, oh, they're all like wrong, huh? Like I went into it thinking one of these guys, one of these three kingdoms is gonna be like, they're gonna be right, and the other two are gonna be greedy, and they're gonna be the wrong guys. And then, like, I'm literally like, oh, they're all doing the thing, huh? Like, there's literally no one in this story to root for beyond who you like, and whose like personal stories are the most sympathetic, which may well be, a reason for its cultural sort of longevity. The ambiguity that's always there, the different sort of way that you could start thinking about it just on the basis of, this guy did something bad, and then, like, you learn about all the other people, and you're like, oh, they all... Wait, are there good guys? Sort of like a Warhammer sort of idea, when you're like, oh, they're all kind of bad, and some of them are just, like, super bad, and then the guys that we thought were good ended up being terrible, but only in this one city, maybe? Oh, wait, no, now it's another one. Because, like, if you're not being generous and you don't like the dudes in Shu, Han, are you really going to look at Zhang Fei and his enormities and be like, that was unsanctioned? No, you're going to blame the people responsible for it. You're going to blame the flag that he did his deeds under. You're going to be like, hey, his sovereign should have known better. Whereas, if you like Liu Bei, you'll be like, Zhang Fei, what are you gonna do? He's a bad guy. He's a bad seed. What am I supposed to do? What am I supposed to kill him? And then, like, just like that, you're doing a scene from Goodfellas. That wouldn't be a bad idea. Me, you say, yeah, very interesting indeed. And I remember too, like, because playing the Destiny of an Emperor game, and then like when Dynasty Warriors came out, I mean, like I just always expected somebody to win, and then they're like, oh, you know, by the way, these three kingdoms, these Dramatis Persona, these families you've been learning so much about, all of them lose. By the way, it's gonna be this dude who was introduced as a smart guy, and boy howdy was he. But it's almost like how almost all the strategists come across as like sort of laudable characters who are well received, but a lot of that is that they're never getting the moral blame for whatever mission they're set out on, right? The strategists are there to secure the will of the sovereign of the factions, so unless they betray them, it's always looked at as like, you know, if they complete the mission, whatever the result is, you know, goes to the top guy. It's almost like the opposite of like the charismatic bodyguard equivalents, you know. Yeah, exactly. The Zhao family had a problem. They kept dying. You know, another tale as old as time, right? Succession struggles in the wake of one warlord. You know, we have Alexander in Western history as the most famous example, where none of his dudes wanted to work for any of the other dudes. Which, I mean, fair enough, right? Why should Ptolemy have to? Why should he ever have to work for some other guy? Ptolemy's just as popular as Seleucus. Ptolemy's just as handsome as Seleucus. Ptolemy's just as good of a warrior as Seleucus. We should already just stab Seleucus, you know. And very fitting, you know, that the Zhao clan, renowned for their treachery, would eventually try it with precisely the wrong guy to be messing around with. You can just see Cao Cao kicking himself from beyond the grave, being like, I specifically told them not to mess with him. Everything was going perfect. Hey, they got a little pool of water down here. It's always nice. Always nice to have a little secret pool of water with wheat planted beside it. And every now and then we can think about it, or not, once we're gone. I don't really think about most of the wheat field once it's planted. It's just all part of the natural beauty of the place. And then we move on. How differently history would have gone if Cao Cao invaded Dao Qian under better pretenses and or didn't sack the place. You know, it is interesting. There's so much that happened in like those few years of a prelude with just like, you know, general disarray and like the exploitation of chaos, but it's almost like because of how the dominoes were set up, like, something would have had to have gone wrong, right? Like, there wasn't a stability in the power structure, and there's just too many people to exploit, right? Like, it was too profitable for someone to try to run everything. So really, like, the weakness of the people who were doing it would have led to it anyway. Yeah. Because, like, even if people had liked him, would it have helped him? I mean, like, would it really? He already had, I mean, pretty decent popular support, depending on what region he's in. He already had bitterly entrenched opposition. But, like, maybe some of the other warlords would have been more inclined to him if he had been seen as a more, you know, magnanimous in victory sort of guy. He's a smart man. Sure, he would have found a better way to rise to prominence without making him the whole world. Yeah, you know, I'm always thinking like how he is whenever I'm playing him in a video game, where I'm like, now attack the enemy. Yeah, it's... yeah. Oh yeah, he would be staying up there, and then absent that, the general popularity that he gets would never be able to get established, and he would just be like some dude that nobody had heard of in the immediate timeline. And he'd be too far away. Ah, yes. Because I guess circling back to what I kind of said earlier, like the problem was that there was no strength and organization in the accepted leadership. So if he could have done that quickly enough, then he might well have been able to head off all the other, like, resentment. At least much of the other resentment. There's a lot of, like, sort of regents to rulers situations where you're like, did they have to act all monstrous, or were they just doing it because they didn't think they had a lot of time to be in charge? But it also makes for a very good story. Can't claim he was a super if he does anything wrong. Exactly. It's like, maybe just this time let the Emperor go out if he wants. What's the worst thing that'll happen? But they gotta go, like, they gotta get all out of whack. You remember when they gave me the 9 bestowments and then sanctioned me the next turn? Come on, man. That was very funny, though. Objectively very funny. So you never got a good management, something like that. Well, I'm just lucky, I guess. Generally, you manage your imperial retreat with controlled expansion of food surplus. Yeah, you know, if I had looked at that, hey, your advisors can do a thing for the season, you know, 20 years ago, there's probably some stuff we could have done. But hey, I like to learn at my own pace, right? Controlled expansions of food surplus. Yeah, you know, I was trying to control my expansion, but my enemies kept declaring war. I just wanted to, like, hang out and build things. I just wanted to build some nice armies and hang around, you know. Build a little Confucian temple by the river. That's all I ever wanted. Alright, alright. Bandits and Yellowtail is never hard your imperial favor when attacked. And names of the hunt gaining favor when you fight them. Alright, on it, yeah. It's like our imperial favor is already just totally tanked. And we still have to fight Yoncha. Like, you know, at this point it's just like we just gotta wipe him out, right? And then there's Kong Rong up there. We're gonna have to bash 2 unless what, like we eliminate Yan Shao and then like make friends with him. But at that point, like just get rid of him, right? Solidify the northern power base. Because it's certainly not as if we can make peace with Yan Shao again. Yan Shu is Yan Shao's brother, the one who declares yes. The totally legitimate emperor. Fascinating how they didn't declare themselves like not subject to the rule. They were like, no, I'm claiming the mandate. Of course, they understand that the trappings of power are every bit as important as anything else. You know, the symbolism of authority is very important for the relationship of the commanding to the commanded. Yeah, for a little while. And then they're like, actually, I should get to be in charge. Maybe I'm misremembering. Or maybe not them, but like one of their descendants before too long. It was like the end goal of the people never seemed to be, we're gonna have independence for this little place that we're from. Oh, and there were a couple left. Yeah. I guess that makes sense too, yeah. You know, you don't want to go too big at the beginning. I'm the king of the world. Like, that dude was just on a boat. Can't say that you're the king of the world when you're merely on boats. Everyone nominally claimed loyalty to the Han until there was no Han left. Yeah. Which makes a lot of sense too, right? Because the symbolism of a population who expects to have to comply with government directives is not going to be asking too many questions most of the time over whether or not they're legitimate. That's a good way to get noticed, and not noticed in a good way. But I guess it's like everything else, you know, you establish borders, and then the borders become a flashpoint of contention, because invariably having slightly more than you used to have would be good. Especially if one could have it for free, or a discounted rate. Just so that everybody hated John Shu about as much as they did Cao Cao. PR look for stacking him. Yeah. What a guy. What a guy. And like, we compared you to the literal boogeyman, and people still like him better than you. There's a period in Roman history called the Year of Four Emperors. You'll never guess how I got the name, but it always reminded me rather a lot of this era in Chinese history. Although it was very different in a lot of ways. But just like how things were so bizarre and so in flux, and like power structures that seemed to be favoring one group of people just basically dissolved in a matter of months, and then got replaced by another set that dissolved in a matter of months. Fascinating stuff. Sun Si, who was normally his vassal, betrayed him. You know, he did get like 2 years of living like the emperor. Last words were asking for honey water while on the run to his brother's lands, died of sickness along the way. Well, do we know if he got the honey water? It's like the I would like a Mountain Dew before I die type of thing. Refused to drink the normal water because it tasted bad. What a guy. Probably spit himself. Yeah, probably. Alright, good news. I feel like playing something else now. It's probably just gonna be Silksong though. Yeah. Yeah, we'll just play an hour of that before bed. I probably am going to work tomorrow. They'll probably let me come back. Look, you can't worry too much about it, right? But I'll be on in the morning anyway. But I'm about to end this stream. Ever hear of Dong? I don't think so. But anyway, that's all I've got for you right now for this. We're about to boot up a stream for Silksong in probably like 4 minutes. So yeah. Play that for an hour or so before bed, just explore around a little bit. Hello, Cleto. You say you like my mustache? Well, thank you very much. It's my pride and joy, really. But see you later, Luke, or in the other stream if you pop into that one. Just another nice day in the wheat field with the Legion of Iron Golems restfully walking around and restfully trampling all over my beautiful wheat. It's okay. I wish they wouldn't do it, but they always will. But anyway, yep. Gonna go ahead and call this one right here because I feel like playing a more engaging game now, so anyway, thanks for watching, thanks for listening. Hope you've enjoyed, and perhaps I'll see you in that stream in just a couple of minutes. See you, Luke. Bye, Coletto.